Hello again folks. So it turns out tonight I'm not very adept at pressing the record button on my camera, hence you're joining me halfway through a repair, but you've not missed much. This is the dash cam out my car, and the other week there my wife decided to entangle her foot in the power lead, and when she left the vehicle basically dragged it with it, and as a result of that the USB socket was torn off the board. So essentially what you've missed is I've taken the cover off, I've desoldered the speaker, and I've had a look at the pads. I've just run the soldering iron over the top of them and they do look intact. However, these two on the right here might be a little bit dubious. So essentially what we're going to do is clean up the pads and put the socket back on the board, and hopefully it should work. Now of course this can be transferable to any in-car accessory. I have had to do this on countless TomTom sat-navs, you know, Garmins and such like as well. It is quite a common thing to happen. So the skills and the techniques we're going to be using in this video you can use on other devices as well. So without further ado, let's start clearing up the board. So I'm going to use my multi-core flux pen this evening, and I'm just going to chuck some flux on there, and that will just aid with the old solder wick. I'm using some CPC Duratool solder wick tonight, or solder wire as it's described here, but it should work. Not too bad. And I'll just grab some fresh solder just in case I need it. And all we're going to do here is heat up the braid and allow it to soak up that old solder from the board. Those don't look too bad. Let's get on and do the pads now. Just one final little clean up, and that looks good enough to me. Okay, so before I go any further, I'm just going to clean up the area we've just been working on using some isopropyl alcohol. Just using a little lint-free cloth here. Okay, and then get a dry bit. Oops. And that should do the trick. So, yeah, that doesn't look too bad at all. The pads are intact by the looks of things. I think that's just a bit of the silk screen that's come off. It doesn't look damaged. Yeah, it's just the silk screen that's come off and exposed a bit of the trace. But yeah, that's going to be easy enough to reattach to, I think. I might just clean up that pad at the bottom left there. There's still a bit of solder on there, so we'll quickly get that out the way. There we go. That should do the trick. Right, now let's inspect the socket. I'm just going to pop this in the helping hands just because it's a small light part and we don't want it sliding about the bench, and we'll just do the exact same as we did with the board. Just check you can actually see that. Yep. Okay, and that should do the job. So make sure it's not too warm. And you know what, that looks fine. Yeah, the pins haven't been bent out of alignment or that, so yeah, I think we're good to go. So I'm going to use to reattach this is some good old solder paste. I'm just going to apply a small amount to the four sort of mechanical pads, if you like. and then a small bead along the 5 power and data connection lead. Might be too much actually, so I'll just drag a little bit off there, like so. And then we'll take the connector and then just place it on. Not like that though. Bear with me, I'll grab my tweezers. Hello again, sorry about that. So yeah, I just grabbed my tweezers. I've actually reapplied the soda paste because when I dropped it on, it squidged it everywhere. So just going to position that on the board, like so. And just press it down. Now this connector does have 2 locating sort of pegs, if you like, and it should pop in to the board and locate itself, which it has. There we go. And all we're going to do now is use a hot air gun. So I'm just going to lift the board up so that it's not next to the plastic. And I'll try and zoom in here. I don't know how well this will come out on camera. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. So I'm just going to heat it up with the hot air. As always, not keeping the airflow in any one area for any great length of time. And there it's starting to float. And that looks not too bad to me. Okay, so just the thing we need to check, of course, is the connections. That's going to be the biggest concern. And there's potential, there's a couple of shots there on the 4 outer pins. I don't know if you can see that there. So what I'm going to do, I'm quickly going to grab the multimeter, stick it on continuity, and we'll just try and test that. So yeah, we've got a shot there. Yeah, we've got 2 shots. So that's easily fixed. All we're going to do is take a flux pen initially, give it a dab in there, take the tip of our iron, and then just heat up and then drag it out the way. There we go. And if I bring that back up to the camera and tap it to focus, you will see that those shots are now gone. I don't even need to get the multimeter on there. I can see that the shots have been removed. Okay, so now all we're going to do is pop the PCB back in the housing, like so. Take these 2 smaller screws, if I can remember where they went. I think there was one. See if I can see. I don't think it really matters. There is provision for 4 screws, but only 2 were populated. If that's even the word to use when talking about screws. There we go. I'll pop the 2 covers on. So that one goes on this side. And this one goes on this side. We will reattach the speaker leads. Excuse me. Like so. And then we'll pop the two halves of the case together. Now there's 4 screws to go in here. I'll just pop a couple in. In fact, we might as well just put them all in. This is confidence for you. Of course it's not going to work now that I've done that. So of course the key thing about this, doing a repair like this, is cleaning up the work area first. If you get it nice and clean and almost like new, then of course it's going to be easier to do the repair. So I'll pop the battery in and we'll establish that it does turn on. Okay, it does. I'm going to turn it off now, and hopefully if I apply power, the unit should turn on. So fingers crossed. Oh, I've got USB cables going everywhere here. And there we have it, fixed. So there we go. Nice easy repair, not too taxing. If you haven't seen any of my surface mount soldering tutorials, I'll maybe pop a link to one of them down the bottom left here at the end of the video. But there we go, guys and girls. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned something. As you can see, not a drastically difficult repair. Something that you should be able to do with limited skills and tools, or limited experience I should say, and tools. Essentially all you need is a bit of flux, a bit of desolder braid and a hot air gun. Of course you could hand solder that on there as well. I will, as I said, link to a tutorial that covers all the surface mount soldering techniques. So if you'd enjoyed that video, found it useful, give me the thumbs up. If you didn't, as always, give me the thumbs down. If you haven't already done so and you'd like to do so, click on my fat head here. And until next time, as always, take care of yourselves and all the best.